Hey, this is the second week of our Never Alone series. This is the lesson that is for the week of January 13th, or if you're watching it today, it's January 14th. A couple quick reminders before we jump into the lesson. If you are comfortable and wanting to come back in person, this Sunday we'll begin offering in-person small groups. Again, just like Wednesday youth group, the Sunday small groups will require masks, social distancing, and responsible hand washing. And the areas will be disinfected before and after we are all in those spaces. So if you're interested in coming to that, just a reminder that this Sunday we do start back with weekly small groups. We're also in person weekly for youth group, and this is our virtual gathering. And for our virtual gathering, let me encourage you, participate through the comments. You don't get to have the face-to-face communication as much with us. What we have here is our conversations underneath of this video. So let me encourage you to do that. And the second reminder I want to give you is that for Momentum, that is a district event, the sports side has been canceled. Any in-person part of Momentum is also canceled. And at this point, it's the whole arts half. Arts isn't just drawing or painting, it's also music or worship or drama. But that whole half of the event is still open. You just have to submit a registration and your submission by January 28th. If you have any questions about that, don't hesitate to give me a call or an email. My email is mginn@calvarychurch.net. So to go ahead and get started, like I said, this is week 2 in our series on Never Alone. I want to start with a story that I found recently of a man whose last name was White. For the life of me, I cannot remember his first name. If you find it, leave it in the comments. You will make my day. But his last name was White, and he was working in a building in New York City, not working there as a CEO on the top floor. He was there to fix something on the top half of the building. And so he worked all morning. At lunch, he left the building to take a break and then came back into the building for the second half of his workday. Now, they have 2 different elevators in skyscrapers like that. They have elevators with every option for every floor, and then they have express elevators, which don't have the options for, say, floors 1 through 39, but then 40 through 80, they have those floor options. The purpose is if you need to go to the top half of the building, you don't have to wait for people to get off on all the lower floors before you get to your floor. If you need something to imagine, picture the scene from Elf where he experiences an elevator for the first time, and the first thing he does is he lights up all of the floors. And so this poor guy who had to go to the top of that building had to wait for the elevator to stop at every floor on the way there because Buddy had hit every single button. So this man, White, he was going to the top half of the building. He took the express elevator and went ahead, got on. He was by himself, and elevator started going up. Not too long into the elevator ride, White noticed that something didn't feel right. If you don't like elevators, that phrase alone is probably enough to make you think, oh my gosh, what is happening? Is the elevator going to fall? Something didn't feel right, and what felt wrong was that the elevator had stopped, and White could tell the elevator had stopped moving. And so not a lot of time passed before he tried to pry open the elevator doors to see what was going on, and surely enough, there was a brick wall in front of him. And on this brick wall, there was a plaque that had the number 13 on it. In other words, because this was an express elevator, it was walled off for floors 1 through 39, and there was no way to get off the elevator until either the first floor or 40 and up. So at that point, he looked through the elevator to see what his options were. There wasn't an emergency phone to call someone. This was before cell phones, so he couldn't text or call someone with his cell phone. And all that was there that he could use was an alarm button. So he hit the alarm button and he let it run and run and run until he couldn't quite take it anymore. Finally, he hit the button again just to turn it off, to stop hearing it, and nobody called. No one came over the intercom. Nothing changed. And so he went up to the roof hatch that's on the elevator. I don't know if that's what those are called, but you know what I'm talking about. The top of the elevator has a hatch that you can come in and out of. And he tried to get that open to see if he could get out of it, and that was locked. So now White is beginning to realize that in this elevator, he's alone. Nobody seems to be aware of what's going on, and there's a brick wall in front of him that should be the 13th floor, walls all around him, a locked hatch above him, and nothing else. He was stuck. He was stuck in this elevator. There was nowhere else he could go. There was nothing he could do. He was just stuck. And while he was stuck there, there's actual footage of this whole time that he was in this elevator. He's seen going back and forth between just pacing in the elevator and opening the doors again to see if anything has changed, and then sitting on the ground and pulling his wallet out to organize everything in it. He would take it all out and then he'd put it all back in. Then he'd get up and he'd pace some more and then check the doors again. And hours were going by. Actually, not just a few hours, but 41 hours went by while White was on this elevator, pacing, checking to see if anything had changed, organizing his wallet, and waiting. Stuck on this elevator for 41 hours. Finally, at the 41st hour, somebody in the security room, because yes, there was a camera in the elevator, and yes, this camera had seen him, the security guard in the security room saw him laying on the elevator floor and thought that somebody had broken in and was trying to sleep in the elevator. And so he then alerted people and sent a team to go see what was going on, at which point they finally realized that this elevator was broken down and that White had been stuck on it for 41 hours. They got it fixed, they got him off, and as soon as the elevator doors opened, he sprinted out of them. He wasted no time, he got out of the elevator. But before that point, he was stuck, completely stuck. Being stuck is not a fun feeling, right? Unless it's like being stuck in a candy shop. I can't imagine any other time where it would be fun to be stuck. I've heard stories of people being stuck on a roller coaster, even stuck upside down on a roller coaster. I've heard stories of people getting their arms stuck in the toilet, no joke, because they dropped their phone in it and they went in after it and then their arm got stuck and they had to break the toilet to get their arm out. I've heard all sorts of stories of people being stuck, and typically they don't make me feel like I want to be in that position. I don't want to be stuck. I think a lot of us probably don't like the idea of being stuck somewhere, especially in an elevator for 41 hours. But this is what I want us to talk about today and think about, is this idea of being stuck. And now we're going to shift a little bit from literally being stuck in something to more metaphorically being stuck. And I want to give you some ideas of what I mean when I'm talking about being stuck. As I say these ideas, write them down if something resonates with you or if it makes you think of something that is going on in your life. But maybe some ways that you are stuck right now are stuck in destructive patterns. Maybe you have a habit that you keep going back to time and time again. It's not good for you, but you kind of can't help it. You keep going back to it. Maybe you have a hidden habit, something that also isn't good for you. You keep doing it and going back to it, and nobody really knows that it's going on. Maybe you're stuck in feelings of shame and guilt and unworthiness, constantly feeling like you don't measure up and you're not good enough. Maybe you're stuck in a bad relationship, whether it's a bad friendship or a bad dating relationship. Maybe you're stuck in your spiritual walk. You want to grow, you want to know Jesus more, you want to keep moving forward, but you just feel stuck. Maybe you're stuck in the same place in life that you are just ready to be out of. Maybe for you right now, it's being stuck at home. That is where you're stuck and you're ready to be past that point in life. This is what it might mean to be stuck. Some different things that it could mean or how it could look. There's a man in Scripture who I think fits the word stuck quite perfectly. In John 5, we hear about him. This is actually John 5, 1 through 5 is where we'll start. And I'll go ahead and read his story. Sometime later, Jesus went up to Jerusalem for a feast of the Jews. Now there is in Jerusalem, near the sheep gate, a pool, which in Aramaic is called Bethesda, and which is surrounded by 5 covered colonnades. Here a great number of disabled people used to lie, the blind, the lame, the paralyzed, and one who was there had been an invalid for 38 years. We're going to pause in the story here. Did you catch that? He has been stuck for 38 years, not 41 hours, not a couple of days. I mean, 38 years. That's double or triple most of your lifetimes. So why were people waiting by a pool in the first place? Well, first off, people believed that the pool had healing powers. So these pools would draw people who had illnesses or sicknesses or disabilities. And they believed that if the water bubbled up or was stirred, then the first person in would be healed from those waters. This was a cultural belief at that time, and they actually thought one of the Greek gods was responsible for stirring the water and bringing about healing. So this man had waited and waited, and Jesus meets him in this waiting, in his stuck point in life. And let's read that really fast. This is John 5, verse 6. When Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, he asked him, "Do you want to get well?" Now, to get started, for me, I think that is an interesting question that Jesus asked to start with. That would almost be like asking the man in the elevator, "Hey, do you want to get off of the elevator? I know you've been there for almost 2 whole days, and I know there's not a bathroom there, or a change of clothes, or anything to do, but do you want to get off of it?" So I thought that was an odd question that Jesus, the first encounter he has with this man, is asking, "Do you want to get well?" And the man's response is equally as interesting, and we'll talk about that in a second as to why it's so interesting. He responds, "Sir, I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred. While I'm trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me." So I'm analytical. I like to ask why and understand why things work or why they are how they are. And this makes me ask why. So first off, Jesus asks a question that seems like a silly question to ask or an obvious question. And then the man responds to a yes or no question, do you want to get well, without a yes or no. That would be like if I asked, "Hey, do you like ice cream?" And you said, "Well, I had pizza for dinner." Okay, cool, I'm glad you had pizza for dinner. That didn't answer the question. And so I find it really interesting that this is how the man responds. And the reason I find it interesting is because there could be a few different things happening here. There are actually 3 different things that I imagine could be going down in this moment for why Jesus asks the question he asks and why the man responds how he responds. So the first thing that could be going on is the past. So the 3 things all have to do with time. So to help you remember, we're going to talk about the past, the present, and the future. The first one is the past. In other words, this man, instead of in this moment where Jesus is asking him a question and saying yes, I want to be healed, and then moving forward into the future, the first thing he does is he looks back at the past and all of these years that have led up to now and why he hasn't been healed yet because of what's happened before now. This is so easy to do for all the different ways that we could be stuck. Again, whether it's relational or emotional. When I say emotional, I mean like, those times when you are stuck feeling a certain way that you don't want to keep feeling, whether it's lonely or sad or angry. Sometimes you can feel stuck in those feelings. And in this being stuckness for this man, he looked back at the past for why he is how he is now. And for us, I think when we're stuck, it is so easy to point at the past. When we're stuck in frustration, it's easy to point backwards and say, well, that person did me wrong, and that's why I'm angry. And we're talking about something that happened 5 years ago, or last year, or last week, instead of dealing with it or moving forward. Maybe if you're struggling with being stuck in a hidden habit or something that you're doing that people don't know about, and maybe it's been going on for years, it would be easy to say, man, how can I break free from this habit? How can I break free from this sin when I have been tempted and lost for 3 years or 5 years or however long it's been? One of the reasons that I think maybe the man could have responded the way he did was because he was caught up on the past. And the past very well could have kept him from being healed. The story unfolds after this, but if he stayed there, if he only talked about the past and that's all he talked about and was focused on, I wonder if he would have been healed in the present. What from your past is keeping you from knowing Christ today, walking with him, and being healed and moving forward in new life in the future to come? The second thing, we're going to jump to the future now. So we talked about the past a little bit. I want to talk about the future a little bit too. Again, Jesus asked a yes or no question. The man who has been stuck for 38 years does not give a yes or a no. And I wonder if, the second thing I wonder is if maybe his heart was a little bit jaded because he knew the plan for healing. It was right in front of him. He just had to be the first one into the pool when it bubbled up or stirred. And so he knew what had to happen. He knew the solution, he thought, and this perfect solution that he had thought of and focused on wasn't working. In other words, he had imagined a future that would solve things, but this imagined future wasn't solving things. Now, what might that look like for us? A lot of us aren't sitting by a puddle or a pool or a lake and imagining jumping into it as soon as it bubbles up. What we might do, though, is we imagine a future solution and we think, once I get there, then I will be better. For example, we think, once I look a certain way, I'll feel better about myself. Once I'm a certain size, or once I look how I think that I should look, then I'll be happy. Then I'll be well. I'll feel good about myself. Maybe it's having enough close friends. Maybe you feel like you're not lovable or as worthy, and you just want to surround yourself with as many people that love you and affirm you as possible. But it doesn't seem like that quite fixes that feeling inside of you. Maybe if you could just be athletic enough, if you could just get the award, if you could just get the accomplishment, if you could just get that A, if you could just keep your room clean. Maybe it's just getting out of the house when you graduate. Whatever it is, one of the things that we also do when we are stuck is we imagine a future and we imagine a solution that will make us feel better. We think that it will fix things, it will heal us, it will help everything be better. But let me tell you, as directly as I possibly can, that doesn't work. That does not work, whether it's trying to get to a certain size or look a certain way or be athletic enough or be in a certain career. It's great to have dreams, but man, when that is what you are chasing after as the solution that will fix how you are stuck, how you are feeling, how you have that hole in you, whatever it is, those things will not fix it. They will not make you feel better. Maybe for 10 seconds, maybe for 15 seconds, but what happens on the 16th second? The second thing the man did was he had imagined a solution that would fix things, but that solution wasn't working. What are you trying to imagine will fix things that isn't quite working? What do you keep chasing after, thinking that once you get there, then you'll be good, then you'll feel better, but you haven't made it there yet, or you've made it and it hasn't quite made you feel any better yet? All of those are false lies that they will fix things. Jesus Christ is the only one who has the power and the love for you to truly bring change. Finally, the third thing, we talked about the past, we talked about the future. I want to talk about the present a little bit. Again, instead of answering the question, yes or no, he dodges it. And I wonder if the reason he doesn't give a direct answer is because he's not quite ready for change yet. You might be thinking, that's weird. If he's not ready for changing, why would he be waiting by a pool that would change his life for almost 40 years? Well, think about it. This man, this was what he knew. This is what was familiar. Whether it was good or not, he probably knew the people around him by name. He knew the daily routine. He knew how things worked and how they went. He knew the smells. He knew when the sun would be at a certain place to where it would be too hot or where the shade would be. This was familiar. This was incredibly familiar and therefore comfortable. For us, one of the ways we can get stuck also, maybe you don't struggle with things from the past, maybe you're not stuck on these ideas about the future, but maybe you are stuck in what's familiar today. What I mean by that is the most cliche example is imagine any movie where the person is dating someone where the whole movie you're just thinking, oh my gosh, you're with the wrong person. Like, why are you still with them? Break up. I know I do that. I watch chick flicks and every time I'm like, oh my gosh, break up with them. Come on, move forward. Stop it. And that's obviously what's going to happen in chick flicks because the plot lines are not complicated. But that's kind of what it's like. It's like when you are staying in a bad relationship because it's familiar and it's comfortable. Just because it's familiar doesn't make it good. For you, if you are stuck in something, do the harder thing of being willing to change and being willing to move forward, even if it is jolting, even if it is different or a new normal. Be willing to take that step into something that is different. Do you want to get well? Do you want to be well and to be healed and to be unstuck? Because if you do, that will probably look different than how it's looked before. Now, Jesus' response to the man is really simple, and it's in John 5:8. He says, "Then Jesus said to him, 'Get up, pick up your mat and walk.' And at once the man was cured. He picked up his mat and walked." Let me tell you, whether you are stuck on things that happened in the past, stuck on something that you're dreaming about for the future, or stuck on what is familiar and comfortable today, let me encourage you that 1, Jesus knows you. 2, Jesus, he loves you, he cares about you, and his plans for you are good. His plans are so much better than what you could imagine or hope for or craft up yourself, even if they are very different than what you could imagine. Jesus invites you to stand up, to pick up your mat and to walk. Now, what that looks like for us specifically, I'm going to give you one very, I guess, easy, but maybe not easy challenge for what that looks like for us. When I say stand up, when Jesus says stand up, in that invitation, I think there's an invitation to do something. The something just depends on how you're stuck. Maybe doing something means talking to an adult about something you struggle with, one of your parents or an adult leader. Maybe it means confessing that hidden habit. Maybe it means extending forgiveness finally and stop being so bitter and frustrated. Maybe it's leaving your phone in the living room when you go to bed at night instead of taking it with you and scrolling through things for 2 hours or 3 hours, or being tempted by your phone when you're in your room by yourself. What does it mean to just take one step forward? That is the challenge I have for you today, to get unstuck. It's not about running a marathon or a half marathon. It's about taking one step from where you are now. Whatever that first step is, I encourage you to take it. And with the story of the man, notice that Jesus healed him. Jesus was the one with the power and the one who did the miracle. But the man had to make a conscious choice to get up and to walk. And I wonder, we don't know this because this didn't play out, but I wonder if the man stayed sitting on his mat, if he would have experienced that healing miracle, if he just stayed. I think that there's a participation where Jesus is powerful and Jesus commands us to stand, to walk, to move out of what we are stuck in. And he's powerful to break any habit. He's powerful to help us with whatever we're feeling with, whatever we're stuck in or whatever we're struggling with. But for us, there's responsibility on our part that we have to be willing to take that step. Again, whatever that step might look like. So in closing, I know this has been a longer YouTube lesson. So if you have made it to this point, you're a rock star. But I will post some questions down below. I feel like a YouTuber every time I do this. It's exciting. So anyways, I'm posting questions down below. Hit the like button or subscribe button and talk through these questions with friends, with your parents. Right now, if you're watching from home, you are missing out on one of the key parts of youth group, which is getting to talk through these things together after hearing the lesson. So if you need to call someone or talk to your parents or go over this as a family, whatever that looks like, I encourage you to talk it through with people, and leave comments down below to the questions that say to leave comments. That would be awesome. But anyways, let me pray for us, and thank you for joining us today, or whatever day you're watching this. And know that you are loved and that Jesus is for you. He wants to help you be unstuck with whatever that looks like. And he has such good plans for you. So let's go ahead and pray. God, I thank you so much for this day. And I thank you for just how good you are, how powerful you are. I thank you that you sent your son to make it possible to know you and to make new life possible. The fact that he conquered death and rose again to life is, to me at least, clear evidence that you are capable of taking even the most hopeless situation, or the most difficult sin, or the most just challenging thing going on, and you are able to redeem it and to restore it, to make it good, to make it whole, to bring about life out of things that seem like they couldn't possibly have good life flow out of them. Lord, I thank you that you do care about us, that you do listen to us, that you know us, that you don't want us stuck in whatever we're stuck in. Lord, I ask that you would give us the faith and the strength to take a step, whatever that looks like, to stand up and walk. And Lord, I ask that you would come through and bring the healing that only you can do. I ask that you help us to trust you and to know you more. And Lord, I ask for your blessing for each person watching this, that you would just be near with them and comfort them and work in their lives. And Lord, I know you know their needs, and I just ask that they would feel your nearness right now as they're watching. But God, we love you and we thank you. And it's in Jesus' name we pray these things. Amen. All right, guys. Well, like I said, thanks for watching. I look forward to next week. And like I said, leave a comment or like or something just for fun so that we can talk and get to know each other a little bit here. But yeah, thanks for watching. See you later.